marginalized. The region accounts for barely 1% of global GDP and about 2% of world trade this morning. And just look at what is happening within the BRICS region. Please bear in mind, because that is an emerging thing. When I heard President Lula say that for them in Brazil, the IMF is actually supposed to pay the money. They are debtor nation, a creditor nation to the IMF. The rest of us in Africa are relying so much on the International Monetary Fund. You remember there was an era they were talking about SAPs, Structural Adjustment Programs, which actually by and large failed completely. I would want to suggest that you try, even as you go through the next 47 weeks here, just try and think, if you're economic minded or trade minded, what happened to SAPs? What was the problem? Because some of these prescriptions that some of these multilateral organizations prescribe for Africa do not work. And therefore, we need to be as bold as Brazil to be able to say no and stand firm. Or indeed, be as bold as the President of Malawi, who himself used to work for the IMF, I understand. And the President of Malawi is also the Minister for Agriculture. So he took some very bold steps about agriculture, and Malawi today, through agriculture, is beginning to see real growth in the quality of life of Malawi people because of what the President himself has done. So we need that boldness, where and in fact, at the multilateral level, we are saying we need also to democratize some of these institutions. What is Africa's share of global manufactured exports? Zero, almost zero, because we do not as yet, because stuff is happening, but not the kind that we can write home about. Therefore, the share of the global manufactured exports for Africa is negligible. Over the past 30 years, Africa has lost market shares in global trade, even in traditional primary goods, and failed to diversify on any scale. Continued concentration of these traditional exports has adverse consequences for income and employment. Had Africa maintained the share of world trade it had in the late 60s, its exports and income would be some $70 billion higher today, but that is unfortunately not the case. Africa's exports have generally fallen by about 7% in the 1940s to less than 2% in 2000 as a world, when we look at the world of exports. Africa's resources, as we know, are many, huge human resource base with the world's youngest population, e.g. Nigeria, Ethiopia, DR Congo, and you can add Kenya, where 65% of Kenyans today are actually aged below 30 years. We are a very young nation. And those above 60 years, I think, are less than 5%. Very young countries. I, the other day, visited Turkey, and Turkey is trying to join the European Union. And the rest of Europe is so afraid of Turkey because population growth is high. It's like an African country. And they're wondering now, this huge population, the rest of Europe is actually experiencing decline in terms of age. And therefore you find they're aging Europe and a very young Africa. The challenge to all of us is to try and see whether we cannot now, in terms of human resource, go to the next level. And I think that is why you are here. At the level, because you're not students, you're participants. We want to be able to export know-how to Europe, because believe you me, if this trend continues, Europe will need Africa to be able to manage their own economy. This is amazing, absolutely amazing. And if you doubt me, look at the majority of the football teams that have been playing at the World Cup from Europe. You find that they have some sprinkling of African blood.